Hola, welcome to Ida's Kitchen. Bienvenidos. My name is Ida Lugo McAllister, and I am going to demonstrate how to prepare Puerto Rican pumpkin pie by the Calabaza. Every year I order pumpkin seeds from Puerto Rico. I plant them in my backyard. I live in the Midwest during the month of May. I harvested these Caribbean pumpkins, also known as West Indian pumpkins. We had a cold spell for several weeks in August, and therefore the pumpkins are smaller than usual this fall. The pumpkins are sold whole or in wedges at the Latin market. Our pumpkins are consumed throughout the year in Puerto Rico. They are added to our cooked beans, soups, pasteles, stews, flanes, etc. They have a sweet flavor similar to the butternut squash. A link will be posted on how to cut, peel, cook, and package the Caribbean pumpkins, as well as how to grow the pumpkins. Are you ready to make a delicious Puerto Rican pumpkin pie? We are going to first make a single pie crust. In a bowl, mix 1½ cups of all-purpose pre-sifted flour, along with 1/2 teaspoon of light salt. Add 1 stick of unsalted chilled butter cut into small cubes. Coat the butter with flour. With a pastry blender, cut the butter into flour mixture until it has a coarse meal texture with small pieces of butter. This is the right consistency that we are looking for. You can see the small bits of butter. I filled this small bowl with water and several ice cubes. We can now add 3 tablespoons of chilled water. Knead the dough gently until it just holds together. If the dough is too dry or crumbly, then add more water. If the dough is too wet, add more flour. Make sure to use 1 tablespoon at a time for the water or the flour. For this recipe, I normally use 3 to 4 tablespoons of chilled water. You know the dough is ready when you can press together the dough and it holds as a clump. Let's place the dough on countertop and shape the dough into a ball. Don't worry if the dough appears dry or crumbly, because once we allow the dough to rest, the moisture will distribute throughout the dough, making it easier to handle. Flatten dough into a disc. with your hands or fingers. Cover with plastic wrap and place in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to chill. While the dough is chilling, let's prepare the pumpkin pie filling. We are now ready to make our pumpkin pie filling. Add the dry ingredients into a bowl. 3/4 cup of sugar. 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Stir well. Let's continue with adding 2 large beaten eggs, 1½ cups of cooked mashed Puerto Rican pumpkin, Calabaza. Along with 1/2 cup of skim milk or the milk of your preference. Mix all the ingredients until well blended. By the way, the Taínos Indians cultivated the West Indian pumpkin, our calabaza, in Puerto Rico. We just finished preparing the pumpkin pie filling. The chilled dough has been removed from the refrigerator. If the dough is too hard to roll, then allow the dough to rest for a few minutes. Place dough on a lightly floured pastry mat or countertop. Dust your rolling pin with flour. Since I am going to use a standard 9-inch pie pan, then roll out the dough into a 12-inch circle, about 1/8 inch thick. Turn the dough over and continue rolling. You can add more flour onto the rolling pin. Once the dough is completely rolled out, transfer dough onto a 9-inch pan by placing the rolling pin on the edge of the pastry and carefully roll up the dough. Place the dough on the edge of pie pan and unroll the dough. Straighten out any ripples in the dough. Lightly lift the edges of pastry from the sides and gently fit the dough into the shape of the pie pan without stretching the dough. It is important not to stretch the dough because it will shrink during baking. Depending on your choice of crimping the pie crust edges, trim off the excess dough that hangs over the rim of pie plate to measure at least 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches with a kitchen scissor. Since I prefer the fluted edges, I will trim the overhang to measure at least 1 inch from the rim of pie plate. If you find a spot that the dough is torn or too thin, then use the leftover dough scrap to patch the area. The next step is to fold the overhang under itself to create a thick border. It's time to crimp the pie crust. I love the fluted edges because it will add a decorative touch to the pie. Using your knuckle on one hand, press the dough between the index finger and thumb of your other hand. When you are done crimping the pie crust, chill the pie for 30 minutes before baking. Chilling the dough will solidify the butter to create a flaky crust. Let's prepare the egg wash by beating 1 whole egg with 1 tablespoon of water. We are almost done with the pie crust. Brush the chilled pie crust with the egg wash for a shiny and golden crust. I like to apply the egg wash on the bottom, sides, and top of inside crust. I even apply a small amount of the egg wash on the outer top of pie crust. I never had a problem with a soggy dough due to the egg wash, since the pie will be baked within a few minutes. The last step is to pour the pumpkin pie mixture into the pie crust. Place in oven for 15 to 20 minutes at 425 degrees Fahrenheit to set the crust. After 20 minutes of baking, reduce the oven temperature to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and continue baking for an additional 40 to 50 minutes. At this point, place a pie crust shield or aluminum foil around the edges to prevent the crust from over browning. The pumpkin pie is ready after 50 minutes of baking. The filling is set around the edges while the center has a jello consistency. Remove the pie crust shield and place the pie on a wire rack to cool. The flaky crust has a golden color, and as the pie cools, the center of the pie will continue to get firm. I like to refrigerate the pumpkin pie for 4 hours before serving to create a firmer, creamy texture. A tropical pumpkin pie prepared with a flaky, homemade crust, along with a pie filling made with fresh, cooked Caribbean pumpkin, Calabaza. I love to serve this pie with a touch of whipped cream on top. I still have at least 10 more pumpkins to cook and package. This is a container filled with Puerto Caribbean pumpkin that I normally store in the freezer for future use. For the past 10 years, I do not use canned pumpkin. Let's taste the Puerto Rican pumpkin pie. The crust is flaky and the pie filling is creamy with rich pumpkin flavors. ¡Qué rico! I hope you have enjoyed watching my YouTube video on how to prepare Puerto Rican pumpkin pie by the Calabaza.